It's Thursday, September 28. In the headlines, with the declaration of the mosquito-borne dengue outbreak, Jamaicans are being urged to get rid of mosquito breeding sites at home, and Jamaica working to expand its Asian tourist market. In business news, former Scotia CEO Bruce Bowen replaces NCBJ's Septimus Blake as CEO. Regionally, in the Bahamas, a public health authority looking to recruit foreign nurses. Internationally, key takeaways from the second Republican U.S. presidential debate. And in sports, West Indies women tours Australia. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Minister of Education and Youth Favour Williams says a little over 100 new teachers have joined the education system since her last update in September. She shared the information while speaking at Wednesday's post-cabinet press brief.
When I last provided an update on September 13th at the last post-cabinet press briefing, I reported and welcomed 1,155 new teachers. Today, we can say welcome to an additional 109 new teachers, putting the total to 1,264 new teachers that have entered classrooms for the year 2023 to 2024.
She says the ministry is making every effort to ensure that teachers hired in the month of September who have submitted the required documents are paid at the end of the month. The Education Minister also gave an update on developments in school infrastructure.
I am delighted to report that Cabinet approved US $30 million to support key areas for which continued improvements are needed to achieve full transformation and modernization of the education sector. And these areas include strengthening of school governance, infrastructure component for STEM and the visual and performing arts at the secondary level of the education system, information and communication technology support, improvements in early childhood and the tertiary sector.
More than half of Jamaica's schools are offering civics with a fully developed curriculum. That's the word from the Minister of Education and Youth, Favour Williams. Speaking at a post-cabinet press brief at Jamaica House, the minister noted that 479 primary schools and 105 secondary schools are offering the subject.
As you know, Vision 2030 outlines a national development plan for a secure and prosperous future for Jamaica. The realization of this vision is dependent on a particular kind of Jamaican, a Jamaican who is confident and productive, a Jamaican who is a successful lifelong learner, a Jamaican who is deeply rooted in the Jamaican culture, a Jamaican who understands his or her rights and responsibilities as a Jamaican citizen, a Jamaican who understands him or herself.
She says the civics curriculum for various grades was launched on December 13, 2022. Prior to the launch, only 93 schools had offered civics.
I'm happy to share that there are currently 3 levels of the Civics in School program. For grades 1 to 3, there's an awakening of awareness. For grades 4 to 6, awakening of social consciousness. And for grades 7 to 9, an awakening of social responsibility.
Retired West Indies batting legend Christopher Gale has been traveling throughout Asia promoting his homeland, Jamaica, as a one-of-a-kind destination with an allure that is second to none. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says Mr. Gale has made the ministry's job a lot easier in the Asian market and that visitors that were once considered out of reach are now packing their vacation bags, adding to the record stopover arrivals the country has been seeing. The minister's words come as the tourism ministry pivots to increase the number of visitors from Asia. Minister Bartlett says as a cricketing legend in that continent, Chris Gayle's influence continues to transcend borders and captivate audiences worldwide. The minister says it is encouraging to see that Air India has ordered 470 new aircraft, a record for the aviation industry, as the carrier pushes to become a bigger global player, which will help it to dramatically expand its network, including connectivity to Jamaica. He says the industry players are working to accommodate the increase in numbers.
In 2024, we're going to be bringing on board 2,000 new rooms. Now, what does 2,000 new rooms mean? Assuming even a 50% occupancy with 2,000 rooms added, we're looking at a possibility of some 350,000 more visitors coming to Jamaica. So that if our projection for this year is that we would have 3.8 million, next year, immediately, just with the 22,000 new rooms, you're now looking at over 4 million visitors.
Jamaica gets its bulk of its visitors from the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. As part of efforts to rid communities of mosquito breeding sites, the Ministry of Health and Wellness has dispatched its vector control teams to several high-risk areas across the island. The ministry says it has intensified its fogging to 7 days per week, with teams sent out in the morning and evening. Check, wash, cover, flip, and eliminate. Keep those words in mind and secure your home from mosquito breeding sites.
A mosquito breeding site can be as big as a barrel or as small as this container. This is why it is very important to eliminate mosquito breeding sites in and around the home. Wash and change the water in containers at least every 7 days. If you have water barrels, remember to keep them well covered and wash with soap at least every 7 days. If you live in an area where there are many mosquitoes, protect doors and windows with mosquito nets. Turn containers that can accumulate water upside down and eliminate those that cannot be used. Keep trash bins well covered and free from water. Clean gutters and drains to avoid accumulating garbage and water. Share this information with your neighbors so that the entire community works to eliminate breeding sites and prevent dengue. Remember, check, wash, cover, flip, and eliminate.
A community hero can be described as someone who is a member of the local community, who is passionate about their community and willing to use their talents each day to improve our quality of life. Let's meet this week's hero. There's a saying that goes, it's not where you're from, it's where you're going. This community hero hails from Bay Farm Villa in Olympic Gardens. This is Gary White. He says his family moved around a lot for various reasons.
Because of violence and economic situations. So, I was moving from community to communities, but later on, things got a lot more stable. And for most of my life, earlier years it was with my mother, which was a single parent, and then with my father.
He says his interest in community service was nurtured through the actions he observed from his father.
My father was a man of the people. Even though he was not wealthy or from privileged background or upbringing, he was always a servant of the people. And I remember a lot of stories, which I didn't understand at the time was because I was so young. But now I'm an adult and can reflect. I recognize his efforts in terms of empowering people through simple things and simple tasks. There's one time I can remember him helping someone to apply for an NHD house, and they had to write a justification letter, and he was able to script it and pen that letter for them on their behalf. And, when I think back at that, I was saying there was no benefit for him just to know that he was able to assist. And I think it's from seeing some of those things, has caused me to be this way in wanting to serve in whatever capacity I can and give back in whatever way.
Gary White is the CEO of White Rain Publishing, located on Studio One Boulevard in Kingston. Even that chosen business came out of his intent to provide service in education.
Publishing found me because we started off operating a brick and mortar bookstore, and teachers kept on asking for content that wasn't available. And, being a businessman and an entrepreneur, if the market requires something that is not available, you're going to create it. So my wife championed that initiative at the time and started to prepare material. And we would have edited, reviewed, introduced the content to teachers, take the feedback, because none of us had background in education. And we take the feedback and make the adjustment. And the first book started that way, which was a money book. The fundamental of that book was to teach children at an early stage about money. You understand what I mean? In terms of value, why it's important, what's the usage of it, and that sort of thing. And we started from that project till we kept on finding new titles to introduce to the market. And we recognized that we were onto something. Fast forward, we're at 23 titles now and growing.
He says he wants White Rain Publishing to be part of every discussion about education. Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Motorists will pay less for gas and diesel when they go to the pumps on Thursday, as state-owned oil refinery Petrojam says E1087, down by $3.06, will sell for $190.58 per liter, and a liter of E1090, down by $1.60, will sell for $169.66. Following a decrease of $3.06 per liter, automotive diesel oil will sell for $189.78. Ultra-low sulfur diesel will sell for $197.34 per liter, and the kerosene will sell for $193.68 per liter. In the meantime, propane cooking gas, down by $2.22, will sell for $67.40, while butane will sell for $73.53 per liter after a $3.06 decrease. Remember, retailers would add their markup to the announced prices. The NCB Financial Group has announced another major leadership shakeup. The financial conglomerate has announced the appointment of Bruce Bowen as CEO of its commercial banking arm NCB Jamaica Limited, effective October 1. The former CEO of Scotia Group Jamaica replaces Septimus Blake, who served NCBJ for more than 20 years. The news comes months after the NCB Financial Group announced major leadership changes at top management. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Wednesday, September 27, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.75. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $115.82. The pound sterling traded for $188.39, and the euro sold for $166.20. In GSE trading, the GSE index advanced by over 6,384 points. The junior market index advanced by over 29 points. The combined market index advanced by over 6,224 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by over 4,951 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 109 stocks, of which 59 advanced, 35 declined, and 15 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, and Access Financial Services Limited. Stocks declined for Virgin Paints Jamaica Limited, Cargo Handlers Limited, and Caribbean Producers Jamaica Limited. Trading firm were Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited, Derrimon Trading Company Limited, and Epley Limited 7.75% preference shares. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 30 million units, Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 7 million units, and Lasco Manufacturing Limited with over 3 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calypso Macro Index Fund posted a volume of 509 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Epley Caribbean Property Fund Value Fund was the volume leader with 3,500 shares. They were followed by First Caribbean International Bank, which traded 347 shares. In regional business, Barbados could realize some dividends from its 25-year relationship with Virgin Atlantic. As the airline continues to expand, it envisions Barbados as a regional hub for the transportation of both vehicle and cargo. Crystal Hoyt has more.
Virgin Atlantic is celebrating 25 years in Barbados and offering $25 off airline tickets until next week. Chief Commercial Officer Yuha Harvanan says the relationship between the airline and the country continues to grow.
Barbados is one of our most important routes and also increasingly also very profitable. We've been flying here for 25 years. During the pandemic, we of course had to relook at everything we do. One of the first top 3 routes that we opened after the darkest period of pandemic, it was 3 routes that we reopened. It was Barbados, New York, and Los Angeles. And it tells a lot that Barbados makes it the top 3. And now when we've been building the regional hub here in Bridgetown, it's another milestone and example of the fact that we believe that Barbados can become a regional hub, both for passengers, but also for cargo. And therefore, both on our passenger side, cargo side, and in our holidays business, we see Barbados being a key enabler for us to continue growing in this region.
He shared that the recently introduced intra-regional flights from Barbados to St. Vincent as well as Grenada are not only for passengers but for cargo.
It offers a huge opportunity for local hoteliers, supermarket chains, etc., to bring fresh fruits and other perishables from St. Vincent and Grenada on the multiple weekly frequencies that we now have. We have up to 20 tons capacity on these services, so it's a great opportunity.
Harvanan also announced a new aircraft will be coming to the island by December.
Yes, so the Airbus 330neo, it's our newest baby, like we like to call them. We have in total 16 of them on order. So we have now five in our fleet. We're getting the 6th aircraft soon. So this aircraft is, first of all, from a sustainability perspective, 11% more fuel efficient. So it reduces our emissions. And secondly, from a customer experience perspective, we are bringing a completely new product within our upper class cabin.
Virgin Atlantic continues to fly to Barbados daily. Crystal Hoyt, CBC News.
In international business, the S&P 500 eked out a fractional gain after a seesaw session as investors weighed whether to start bargain hunting following a sell-off fueled by elevated treasury yields and uncertainty about the path ahead for interest rates.
The Dow shed 0.2%, the S&P 500 was little changed, and the Nasdaq ticked up 0.2.
I think right now we're still in the season of investors looking for reasons to take some profits.
Jimmy Lee is CEO of the Wealth Consulting Group.
And there's a lot of reasons right now that people can look at the strike, the pending government shutdown, potential fear of earnings, and I think a lot of it's due to also the Fed.
In market data for oil prices steadied as investors weighed supply concerns against growing expectations that key Western economies will maintain high interest rates to tackle stubborn inflation. Brent crude futures were down 37 cents to $96.18 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude futures were 24 cents lower at $93.44. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, In the Bahamas, amid a long-time nursing shortage, Public Hospitals Authority Managing Director Aubinet Road says the public health care system is preparing to recruit nurses from Guyana, the Philippines, and possibly India. It comes after the PAJ launched a training clinic nursing class on Wednesday.
We are now recruiting. We're expecting some Ghanaian nurses in the next few days. Also, some nurses from the Philippines. As recent as last night, India also reached out to me as well. And so we're going to use some of our recruiting companies to see whether we can get some of those persons within the country. We're also doing research so that we can really hear from the nurses what's going on, especially the newer nurses. So we're looking at things to facilitate as well as the barriers to the retention of nurses within the Commonwealth.
Now, for quite some time, larger countries like the United States have been poaching Bahamian nurses, causing the major nursing shortage we now face. In recruiting new foreign nurses, we asked Roel if language or social gaps are a concern.
Diversity plays a role because cultural norms may differ as you move from country to country. However, we have a process in terms of first verifying and validating their credentials, but also they have a very good, strong English language. We've used a lot of Indians. The majority of our anesthetists are Indians, and they speak English very well.
When a high-level U.S. delegation visited Belize in early August, discussions were held about the likelihood of Belize joining a multinational security mission to Haiti to help stabilize that country. Earlier this week, reporters asked Prime Minister John Briceño to weigh in on the discussion.
As you all know, that Haiti is a really, really bad state, and innocent people are being murdered, women are being raped, even children are being raped, and it's just a sense of lawlessness. And I believe that we in CARICOM, we also have a moral responsibility to be able to do something. There have been a lot of requests or offers. I know, I think Rwanda has been one of the countries that have said that they're prepared to send some troops to help. There's been a movement by Canada, and we spoke with Canada several months ago in trying to see what is it that we can do. I know even the United States is starting to get more involved. There is a two-pronged approach to it. One is a political one. The Prime Minister Holness from Jamaica have been organizing several meetings with the different players from Haiti. They've been brought to Jamaica, to Bahamas, and I think they've gone once to Haiti to be able to meet with them to see how we can have a consensus between all of these competing interests in Haiti. And because while that is happening, people are suffering, people are getting killed. And so that's on the political side. On the military side, for want of a better word, the UN has been very careful and hesitant about going into Haiti, and likewise the American, because the minute that happens, then it turns the whole issue. It's almost like the imperialists, quote unquote, are wanting to take over Haiti. So it is felt that if we have our own, for instance, even like Rwanda, and I think there's another country in Africa, I'm trying to remember, Kenya in particular, have offered. We felt that because we have a historical connection through the slave trade and so forth, that it would be easier for them to go into Haiti without having that major pushback, as if you see the Americans there or the UN.
The time is now. Those words from Trinidad and Tobago's President Christine Kangaloo as she voiced her support for the call for Tobago's autonomy. On Wednesday, President Kangaloo made her first official visit to the Tobago House of Assembly since assuming office in March.
Autonomy for Tobago took the main stage in President Christine Kangaloo's first address to the Tobago House of Assembly. She noted her desire to speak on the matter in Tobago to Tobagonians and in the Assembly as she publicly shared her support for self-governance for Tobago.
I believe that at this juncture of our country's history, our task, the signal importance of which has escaped neither the Chief Secretary nor me, is to fight to keep the question of Tobago's autonomy on the national agenda and to strain every muscle in us to struggle for its achievement and attention until it is advanced and achieved.
Her speech seemed to be a timely response to the Chief Secretary, who minutes before in his address noted Tobago has not been treated well and called for the President's intervention.
We desire, more than anything else, devolved responsibility and authority in law to see over the socio-economic development of the island. And while it is no fault of yours as an individual or as a former parliamentarian, it is a fault of this country that we must work to correct.
President Kangaloo said the attempts to accomplish self-governance have been noted, but more needs to be done. She gave her commitment to lend her voice to the advocacy.
What is now required is for us to push our representatives, both in the Assembly in Tobago and in the Parliament in Port-of-Spain, to take us over the finish line. That government has seen it fit to save that bill from the last parliamentary session and put it on the order paper for this parliamentary session is a step, the significance of which should not be underrated.
The President noted the struggle for self-governance is aimed at making the union between Trinidad and Tobago better. She indicated that though not mentioned in her address, the sea and air bridge woes and economic development in Tobago are also at the forefront of her mind. Carissa Douglas, TTT News.
In international news, U.S. Republican presidential candidates held a fiery second debate on Wednesday. One of the targets was former President Donald Trump, who skipped the lineup. More from Al Jazeera.
The candidates at the Ronald Reagan Library showed a new sense of urgency and energy.
And you hear the fire on the stage tonight. You hear the fire in all of our voices.
They clashed over border security, foreign policy, and the national debt.
And I want to be respectful because I believe these were respectful last debate.
Vivek Ramaswamy doubled down on his bombastic breakout performance in the first debate.
I favor ending birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal immigrants in this country.
Nikki Haley, who was boosted in polls and donors after the first debate, tried to accelerate that momentum in sharp exchanges with him and others.
Honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say.
And Ron DeSantis, polling a distant second, sought to make up ground against the frontrunner. The 7 candidates who took the stage at the Reagan Library are vying to be the alternative to the overwhelming favorite, Donald Trump, in a party that, according to polls, isn't necessarily looking for one. Missing was Trump, who wields a commanding lead despite facing 91 charges in 4 separate indictments. He opted to appear at a non-union auto plant in Michigan instead, an absence his rivals pointed out.
Donald, I know you're watching. You can't help yourself. I know you're watching, okay? And you're not here tonight, not because of polls and not because of your indictments. You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on the stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
Again and again.
Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight. He owes it to you to defend his record where they added $7.8 trillion to the debt.
They went after President Joe Biden and each other.
You know, Ron, you talk a really good game about cutting spending, but you've increased spending in Florida by 30%.
With less than 4 months until primary voting begins, the time left to break out of the Republican presidential pack is quickly running out. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Los Angeles.
In sports, the West Indies women got their tour of Australia off to a winning start with a 4-wicket victory over a New South Wales women's team at Wilson Park. Batting first, Karishma Ramarak had the NSW ladies spun tightly in her off-spin web along with skipper Hayley Matthews. NSW women posted 105 for 9 from their 20 overs. Skipper Sammy Jo Johnson was their top scorer with 28, followed by Hannah Darlington with 24. And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.